For example, somebody has a mini stroke. They might, for a month or two after that, suddenly start exercising. But the chances of them making that change for a long period of time are actually very slim. They have to value their health. Now, sometimes for some of us, we need to lose something to value it, right? Or the threat of losing it has a major impact on our changing our value system. But that's a powerful, powerful element.
I observed the other child, instead of putting in the mouth, he just smelled it. Yeah, so he used the sense of smell rather than taste.
Isn't it fascinating how all our senses can collaborate to lead us into temptation? One of the biggest challenges we find is that the human mind is actually not our friend. And as we deal with emotional wellness tomorrow, you're going to find out why we say that. That your mind, and it reminds me of that scripture, you know that verse that says the heart is deceptive above all things? Now, obviously your heart doesn't think. We know it's just a pump. It is literally just pumping oxygen and blood to the rest of the body. But the fact is that your heart is symbolic of your spiritual thinking, which a part of that is emotions, and we'll discuss that later. But let's look at some of the things you can do to be distracted. So the concept of delayed gratification refers to the ability to put off something mildly fun or pleasurable in order to gain something that is more fun or pleasurable or rewarding. For example, you could watch TV the night before an exam, or you could practice delayed gratification and study for the exam. Now, one of the most powerful things we as Christians face is the delayed gratification on sexual gratification. And the power of that delayed gratification is showing itself in marital wellness statistics. There is a direct correlation. I want to say, I believe with a pastor called Pastor Mark Gungor, that we should allow our children to marry earlier, before they are in the height of their sexual prime, because the longevity of marriage is increased and the happiness factor is increased. The research is showing it directly, especially in Christian communities, that if we can teach our children to delay, there comes a time where delay is crazy. I mean, you're getting married in your 30s and your sexual prime was in your 20s. By the time you get married, what have you been doing? You've had multiple partners, you've got all the baggage that goes with it. And so if you're interested, you can look up Pastor Mark Gungor, and I'll put that on the website as well, about how to encourage our children to delay the gratification and also be realistic about what is fair and reasonable for marrying age. Many people, I can tell you in my home church, many young women are well into their 30s and getting married. And I can tell you that that can be a really dangerous thing from a spiritual perspective, from a physical perspective, and a mental perspective. I'd like to challenge your thoughts with regards to that. So let's look at some tips of delaying gratification. So let's assume I spend a lot of money, more than I have, and I want to reduce my debt, and I don't want to buy things that I don't need. I'm not saying you mustn't buy something you don't need ever, but this is my problem. I spend regularly. Okay. So the first thing is to identify your values. So what value can you identify that would be related to my spending problem? What value should I have? Don't spend what you don't have. Okay? To live within your means. Okay? Similar to what you're saying. Avoid unnecessary debts. So, my first question is, if I am spending money constantly, do you think I value it? Why? Why? And I agree with you. If I constantly am spending money, especially money I don't have, why are you saying that I don't value it? There's no right or wrong answers. Okay, let me ask you, somebody who does value money, who genuinely values money, what would they do with money? Okay, so they'll invest. They'll save. They'll dig it underground. Yeah, in some countries, I worked out in South Africa, it's better for me with the inflation rate versus the bank charges rate to sleep with my money under my pillow. It's not safer though, because in South Africa they will come and steal. It's not like Zimbabwe where you could leave your laptop lying around. So, a person who values money, who genuinely understands its value, will save, they'll spend wisely, they will not be frivolous, but also understand what money stands for. So how do you get money? You work for it, you sweat for it. What have you exchanged for that money? Time. Okay, at times you're lucky, you're fortunate, and you inherit it. But most of us have to work for our money, am I right? Is there anyone here who's inherited really well? I'd like to get to know you very well soon after the meeting. All right, so what am I exchanging for money? My time, my energy. And what is time and energy? Wouldn't you say it's life? So money equals life. Have you ever thought of it, that your money equals your life? You're spending your time, your energy, your skills, your abilities to get money in order to acquire other things, either objects or experiences. But the fact is that you are exchanging something for that money. So what I would need to do here is identify what my values are. Now in my case, let's say I'm just a habitual spender. And I need to rethink what I truly value. So then I say, okay, as an Adventist, in all honesty, I'm supposed to be a steward. And part of valuing money is letting it flow. One of the reasons we give tithe is to help us understand the spiritual value of money and what it actually means. But that's tithing. Then there's the thank offering, and then there's the charity that we give to others. I would say that somebody who truly values money would have all three of those elements. They'd have tithing, the giving of offering, as well as the giving of charity to people. So those are the values pertaining, or that's how we see that somebody values money. So the question is, do you value money? Write down on your card, yes or no. It's a yes or no question. If yes, how much out of 1 to 10? So this is where are you now? Where would you like to be out of 10? Write it down next to it. So the next tip to delaying gratification is to set a goal. Quick question. I want to give you a choice of 2 snacks. You're going to eat these 2 snacks in a month's time. It's not for today. I want you to choose between a nice, juicy apple, beautiful apple, imagine the apple, and a bar of chocolate. But it's not for today, it's not for next week, it's for next month. So this is your snack. Who of you would choose the apple? Just raise your hand. Okay, it's almost half the room. Okay, the rest of you, I'm assuming, will choose the chocolate bar. Raise your hand high. Okay, so that's half. All right, so now, I'm going to give you the snack now. Who wants the chocolate? And who wants the apple? So I've got them under the table. I want to know now, who wants the chocolate? Raise your hand. Okay. Who wants the apple? Okay. So the research shows that this room is quite health conscious. However, generally, what happens is that people tend to be able to make healthy choices about something far in the future. But when the temptation is in front of them right now, then it becomes a big challenge. And what goal setting does, when you've written them down, remember the power is in your pen. It's in your pink pen, writing down your goals. The goal helps to reinforce what you value. Okay. So the next step is develop a plan for reaching your goals. So let's assume I say, okay, I need to stop spending frivolously. And I need to stop using my credit card. My son tells me, and this is a very South African thing, and I hope it's not your problem, but we have some high-end shops like Woolworths that are expensive, even on food. And he says, Mom, people are paying for food they ate last year. People are buying food on credit. This is not leading yourself to success financially. This is leading you to a crisis. Food and daily consumables, and I would venture to say even clothing, stuff that you're using that's depreciating and vanishing, should not be purchased on credit. So for me, the plan would be develop a plan specifically what I need to do. So in my case, it says here, this will also make it easier to delay gratification. Make a list of small things you can do towards working to your goals. So in my case, I will have to take my credit card and give it to my husband. Or leave it at home. If you don't have that good a relationship with your husband and you're scared he might take your credit card and use it, then, or he's just as bad a spender as you are, then you're not leading him, you're leading him into temptation. Another step I can take is to make a list of the things I really need and the things that I'd like to have, but put them in priority. Okay? So that's a simple thing we can do. So ladies, I just want to remind you, if you're writing down or taking pictures, I will email everything to you if you want to, and it will be on the website. So I will give you a link just now where you can go and register on the website so that you've got all the information. So that's a small thing. What else could I do to stop? A small little thing I could do. I need ideas. Now that's a great idea. So using your credit card wisely. So you're budgeting in advance, because it's good to build up a good credit score, but you're budgeting in advance for that little bit of spending money that you can have. Okay, that's a wonderful idea.
Reward yourself with a certain amount on your salary. Look at yourself and put your value to say, okay, this is me money, and I'm not going to exceed this me money in cash, or whether it's in your card, but it's me money for that month, and if it's done, it's done.
Amen. So set aside money for rewarding yourself in advance. Anyone else? Am I right? They have a budget. I can tell you I have a friend who has a real spending problem, and she refused to budget. She said, I don't have a PhD to work with envelopes. And she continued for 4 years with that attitude until she lost her house. Because she simply refused to budget. Now, some of us use the envelope system where it's cash. Others would use your bank account, etc., but there's an allocation. I find personally cash is more manageable, so I'll draw that money and say, okay, this is what I'm allowed to spend. But she refused. I can tell you now that she does it, she's managed to buy another house within 3 years. She's back on her feet. And she basically said, I was financially arrogant and arrogant in other ways. And God had to humble me to teach me this lesson. So those are small things you can do to achieve your goal and develop the plan. Also use an app. You know, there's a lot of apps out there, and I'll have some links on the website as well for some that are really, really helpful. One of them is I'm trying to increase my water intake. So we'll cover that on the physical section just now, but drinking water regularly, some of us really just forget. I mean, how many of you drink more than 2 liters a day? 6, 7 people in the room. So we'll come back to just now how much you should be drinking because it's related to your weight. Did you know that? We went to the doctor the other day and he gave us, my husband, a water prescription. I was like, what? But yes, so the whole idea is that you can use apps. So now my husband is using an app, and every time his alarm goes off and I'm at home, I go drink water. It's a reminder. Because you don't want to drink 2 liters in the morning and nothing through the rest of the day, because that defeats the object. So let me get a cell phone app or set an alarm that will help to remind me about this. Then ask friends and family. Now there's some friends and family who will punish you, and there's others who will motivate you. A little boy was playing chess, and they were on a boat, and he was playing a man who was much older than him. And he took a position on the chessboard, and the older gentleman said, I can't believe it, I've lost the game. And he made a move, and the little boy made his move, and he won. And the little boy went to his father and he said, I can't believe I beat that old man. I could see at least 3 moves he could have made to get out of the situation. And his father said to him, my boy, the one thing I want you to learn from this is never let your own ears hear your own mouth speak defeat. There is power. If God could speak the universe into existence, and He's given you and me creative power through our mouth to speak blessings or curses, to speak encouragement and inspiration. I was battling with self-worth, or I was battling with a circumstance and a situation. And the power of what you said or what you shared was so impactful for me that it made a radical difference. Here is where your friends can support you and hold you accountable. Now, the interesting thing is distraction. How long do you think a temptation usually lasts? A few seconds, maybe a minute. They say if you can distract yourself for 2 minutes. Now, when you've watched these kids, some of them able to do it for 15. That alone should be a motivator that you can do it. This is where it's important to use a timer. Try and step back from your temptation and time yourself how long you can resist before you feel that the temptation is gone. That will tell you how strong the temptation is. The amount of time that it takes for you to be over that craving, that need, instant desire for gratification. That is a very good indicator of the strength of the temptation. During that time, pray and find other things to do. So this is a holistic approach. Then challenge yourself to do a healthy activity before indulging. So let's assume, like me, you love chocolate. I must tell you, in the first month of marriage, my husband came home with 8 little chocolates. 2 of them were slabs of chocolate. He thought that was 1 month's supply. When he came home, I'd finished the whole lot. It was a bad day.
Yeah.
He was horrified. And his horror is what made me sit up and think, hold on, there's something wrong here. I'm supposed to share. These are my husband's and my chocolates to share. They're not supposed to be consumed in one sitting. But I was so focused and under such pressure that I just kept grabbing. And I can tell you, unconscious behavior is one of our biggest problems. Not being in the moment. And our technology helps us to be out of the moment. That's why when we're talking about conversations, don't multitask. If you want people to know that they're valuable, take your phone and put it away. Don't even leave it on the table. It makes people think that they are not your priority. They're not number one. So what you need to do in this case is challenge yourself to do a healthy activity before. So now what I do, before I'm allowed a sweet or a cookie, I tell myself I have to do 15 minutes on the treadmill. And trust me, it's starting to work. You can walk anywhere. Walking anywhere is not difficult. Even if it's on the spot, if you're not safe where you are. We've done some wonderful exercises. Is it Kelly? That also just stretching and being active. In my case, where the issue is spending, if I've got a list, I can reward myself with one of the things I'd like, but keep it small. Maybe it's a nice hand lotion or a perfume or whatever it is, a nice new lip gloss or whatever it is that is small and makes me get that same feeling. Because remember, the feeling is your endorphins go up, you feel happier for a few moments. It doesn't matter whether you bought the car or the lipstick. It's the same feeling. It may last a little bit longer, but it still comes back to, after a week, you're used to it. You don't have the same thrill of, oh, it's a new car. After 6 months, it's got a scratch on it, and it's like, after 3 years, it's like, another one. So the reality is you're wanting to challenge yourself to do something good to combat whatever indulgence you're indulging in. Then to hide the temptation. So now we saw those children closing, they didn't have anywhere to hide. I've seen one where the little boy put the bowl, the plate on top of the thing as well. But if your temptation is buying stuff, magazines are probably your worst thing. Honestly. Looking at magazines can lead you into buying nonsense. And many of them send messages that are just inappropriate. So in my case, I'll stop buying the fashion magazines. I will avoid going into shops without a list. What do I actually need? And what are the things I want that are not frivolous and that will make a positive impact? Then think about the temptation abstractly. So this is actually quite powerful. If, for example, you overeat, taking a plate and pushing it away and asking yourself, what do I feel right now when I push I've now dished a whole lot of food, I push it away and I say, I'm not allowed to eat this. How do I actually feel? Very often, you can find out, if you ask the question, when was the first time I felt like that in my entire life? It will take you back to something that triggered the issue that you've got right now. So I remember as a child having money and feeling extremely elated because my father was trying to teach me a lesson about counterfeit money. In those days, he gave me, for my pocket money, we had what we call a 2 rand, we had notes those days, today they're coins, but he gave me a note that was photocopied one-sided, and I looked at it and said, that's not money. Then he gave me a double-sided color photocopy of the same note, and I was like, I don't think this is money either. Doesn't feel like it, doesn't look right. So I said, Daddy, you're conning me. Where's my pocket money? And then my father gave me a fake, a very good fake, 2 rand note. And I went to the shop with my dad, and I went to buy sweets, and I was elated because that seemed to be what I did most. And the gentleman was in cahoots with my dad in the shop owner, and he said to me, young lady, where did you get this money? I said, it's my pocket money. And he said, I'm going to have to lock you up. I was like, what? He said, do you know that this money is fake? And the law says, if you are using fake money, you can go to jail. I was like, but my dad's the one. Now, the impression that experience had on me, although it taught me some very positive lessons, when I did eventually get real, genuine money, I was ecstatic to be able to spend it, and boy did I spend it. The whole lot went to sweets. I didn't save nothing after that. And my parents didn't realize how that one incident impacted my spending habits. Because up to that point, I used to save quite effectively. I would take a little bit, I'd do my budgeting. Even tithing for me became a problem. And it was only later on that we could associate that to my behavior and my battle with saving money and budgeting properly. So what I'm saying is that there can be things that happen in your childhood that can impact your belief regarding food, regarding your body, regarding money, regarding your relationships with other people. Have you ever noticed that something negative that your parents said to you when you were small will stay in your mind forever? Forget the fact that my father said thousands of positive things. The one negative thing he said in my entire life is the one that stays or stands out the most clearly. So you can identify. Our minds are very deceptive. They can really be our worst enemy. And that's why thinking about a temptation abstractly is so important. In this case, they're saying, let's say you take the marshmallow and you think of it as cotton wool. I mean, who wants to eat cotton wool? Have you ever tried to bite a piece of cotton wool? It's probably one of the worst feelings. It's like putting velvet in your mouth. Like, don't go there. It's one of the reasons my mum won't eat a peach. My father has to peel all the peaches. Because it has a very uncomfortable experience, sensory experience. And so looking at things abstractly is also a way of distancing yourself from the temptation. Then daydream. Just simply daydreaming about the fact that you, or letting your mind wander, can help you to avoid the temptation. The next time it strikes, Start thinking about whatever comes to mind and don't redirect yourself for a while. Just let your mind go. So this is a moment where just letting your mind go is a good thing. Providing yourself with this freedom may be enough to get your mind off that temptation to resist. Then something that I believe is probably one of the most powerful things we can do, not only for resisting temptation, but for life in general, is to practice gratitude. So keep a running list of the things that you feel grateful for, because very often the thing that you're being tempted to do is something that goes against something that you're grateful for. So if you're grateful for your health, exercise that gratitude, and you know that overloading on sugar or fizzy drinks is not in line with the thing that you're most grateful for. So keep your list, your gratitude list, of the things that you already have and that you appreciate, rather than dwelling on the things that you don't have. This is a very powerful thing, is to focus on what you have and being grateful for it. Then, to focus on the negative effects. So what are the negative effects of me spending money on stuff I don't need with money I don't have? Okay, so here, like you were saying, what you worry. You start worrying.
Makes you feel insecure.
It makes you feel insecure, because now what happens is that you need money that you don't have because you spent money that you didn't have, and you find yourself having a spiritual and a physical impact on your life, because that spending habit now causes stress. And stress brings disease, or dis-ease, disease. Then you need more money, especially in South Africa. I don't know about what the medical care system is here in Zim. I hear it's not that good either, the government medical care. So you end up in a really vicious cycle. And a simple habit that could have been prevented by focusing on the negative effects of instant gratification could have helped you. The next step is ask friends and family to hold you accountable, similar to what we did before, but here it also speaks about a proper accountability process. It's about finding somebody who you can really trust to hold you accountable. Someone who can lead you in this situation. So what I've done with a friend of mine is I've asked her, because my problem is not money spending. You needed to spend it. And I chose not to have a credit card. I had one, and I realized that I wasn't that attentive with my credit card. So I decided that we have a company credit card, and that stays at home, and that's only for emergencies. And I don't have that challenge. But I do have a challenge with eating sweet things. So a friend of mine's got a money challenge. Her husband doesn't know. She's got 7 credit cards, and they're all maxed out. And she stopped working because they had kids, and he said, "Sweetheart, I think it would be good for you to not work." And she said, "Well, I need this much a month." And he doesn't realize how much of that is going towards her credit card debts. But she literally cut up 3 of them, and there's 2 that she keeps in the safe at home, but there's a whole lot of things she has to do before she can get to the safe. And we're holding each other accountable with regards to our weaknesses, because it's nice to know that somebody else has a weakness as well. So you can always enter into that buddy system with a friend or family member. Just be careful it doesn't ruin things between you, because if your family members are not compassionate and supportive, you might end up seeing them as what stands between you and your desire or craving. Identify alternative rewards. Here you can basically look or choose something to reward yourself. For not spending on frivolous items, you can buy smaller things that are not as expensive, a hand lotion or a book or whatever it is, a gardening magazine, etc. Then make resistance itself your reward. This is a very powerful thing. When you resist something and you are victorious over that thing, there is an adrenaline rush or an endorphin rush. You feel good about it, am I right? If you can say, no, I don't do that, let the actual resistance be your reward and enjoy that moment when you've resisted. And then tell friends and family about your rewards as well, because that'll help keep you motivated towards working to your goals. So, for example, in my case, one of them is saving up for a trip. There's a trip I specifically want to take, so I am saving up my money for that. I've told my friends and family, I am saving towards this, and I want you to ask me every now and then, how's the saving going? Okay. So that's how your family can help you. So ladies, we're going to take a quick body break, if that's okay with you. I think let's just, for those who need to go to the bathroom. And then we're going to come back. And I want you to think during the body break, what is your favorite smell and your favorite taste? And what is what you hate smelling and what you hate tasting? A taste that you've disliked immensely or a smell that you've disliked immensely. So as you do your body break, think about it, and we're going to come back and we're going to share with an absolute stranger that you don't know in the room those 2 things or 4 things. Your best and worst smell and your best and worst taste.